Good morning, everyone. We're going to begin promptly at 11 a.m. So we're going to give everyone about 2 or 3 more minutes before we get started. Please make sure that you keep your cameras off and your microphone muted during the session. We're going to use the chat features if you have any questions that you want to pose to the presenter. And so we'll get started in about 2 more minutes. Okay, everyone, I have 11 o'clock on my clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Um, Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session today, Universal Design for Adult Learners, Student Engagement and Disability Inclusion. Before we begin, I want to cover some housekeeping items. Please remember to leave your cameras and your microphones off during the session. If you have any questions, please use the chat feature. We will get to as many of them as we possibly can at the end of the session. Also, following this session, we will break for lunch until our panel discussion at 12:30. During the lunch break, we will be playing a selection of music behind the movement. So feel free to log into the panel session early and join us. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today, Dr. Shivaji Kumar, Digital Accessibility Specialist at Amherst College. Dr. Kumar is currently employed as the Digital Accessibility Specialist at Amherst College and previously instructed a faculty course in political science. He is a screen reader user and has a PhD in political science and an MS in information technology. Whenever you're ready, Dr. Kumar, let me know and you'll be able to share your screen.
Thank you for that kind introduction. Really appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming in to attend this session. I really appreciate. I see that so many people are joining in. So that means there is a tremendous amount of interest in this topic. And this is something that I have been thinking about and trying to do some research on. So today's presentation is sort of a first public viewing of my long time thinking and some preliminary research that I am doing or have done. as you just heard, I am at Amherst College, employed as an accessibility specialist. And previously, I've been a full-time faculty, but in a different career, so to speak. I was a political scientist, got a PhD, taught for several years, both at undergraduate and graduate schools, and then decided to change my career and get into this new field that I always thought was very dear to me. I am, as you heard, I'm a screen reader user. So what that basically means that I am a person who is visually impaired. And so I thought making a career switch would be one way to contribute to this emerging field. So let's see how I am doing and whether I am making any contribution. You would tell me by the end of the session today. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. So here we go. Here's what my thinking is. And when I was writing out introduction for this presentation, two things jumped out at me. One, that there is so much similarity between disability studies and digital accessibility and racial justice movement that we are witnessing. So obviously there is a tremendous amount of overlap between equity and inclusion and disability studies and disability practices. But given my personal experiences, and I'm going to share some of those along the way, as well as the literature as it sits in the wider field, there appears to be a disconnect. And I don't know why. I don't know why this disconnect exists. Either this is because of conceptual frameworks or some of the practices that have evolved over the years. Maybe that's one of the contributing factors. So that's why I wanted to explore so how equity, inclusion, and disability are similar or connected with each other, and then how can we really bridge this gap? And the framework that I'm suggesting here, based on my practice as a digital accessibility specialist, as well as some preliminary research that I'm doing, it appears to me that the best way to bridge this gap and to serve our student body would be to adopt a universal design learning approach. So here we go. Just a minute, excuse me, everybody, there's something wrong with my PPT here. Here we go. All right, so for some reason it is not reading my my content, but I remember the content anyway. So I just wanted to get some facts out there, some data, and so one of the data is that about 20%, close to 20% or 1/5 of the American population, according to 2010 census, has some form of disability. And what that basically tells is that it's a huge minority, but it is a significant one. 1/5 of the total American population. That's a large number. And the other number is, and that's more relevant here for our conversation today, that's the 12% of the total undergraduate student body is disabled. And you know, those of you are in the practice of giving accommodations to students. When students get to the college, um, there is a very different set of expectations they have to live by. And when they are in high school, everything is taken care by either by the parents or the plan that the accommodations person puts together at the high school level. But once they get to the college level, they have to self-disclose, have to take control of their learning, and as part of that, they have to um, they have to they have to make a decision whether they want to self-disclose their disability, right? So in that respect, so there is a this is a large number of folks who are there in higher education. I'm still trying to fix my PPT here because I'm not able to read the data on the. Hmm. Uh, um,
Dr. Kumar, while you're working on that, I do want to remind everyone that we do have the chat feature if you would like to post any of your questions there. And we'll just give him enough time to get his slides up, or if you're going to read from your slides, that is fine as well. I just wanted to make sure I reminded all of the participants that we do have that option there. Also, Dr. Kumar, if you would like to email us the PowerPoint, I can share it from my screen if that'll be a little easier for you. Just let
sure.
me know. I'll send you the message.
So here is something I wanted to share. I still cannot read it, but let me try. But you guys can see it, right?
No, it is not shared on the screen right now. We see your camera.
Okay.
You have to share again.
Okay, there we go then. Okay. There we go.
Yes, we see your screen now.
So you can see my my slide 4 now. Can you?
It is a blank slide, but we do see a white slide there.
Ah. My apologies.
Right, we do see introduction on slide 2. You may just have to have it in a different view. We can see introduction here.
Okay.
And it looks like there's content on slide 6. So it looks like these are just 3, 4, and 5 are blank. So.
Okay.
Oops.
Eh, how about 3?
Nope. I think it was the 2 more, I think, had the content on it.
Yes, if you proceed to slide 6, I did see text there. There you go. I see data on disabilities.
Okay, so let me walk you through the content on the previous slides, and my apologies once more. So what I was going to show on those slides was the similarities between the concepts of equity and inclusion. And in a nutshell, what I can tell you, plowing through the literature, the both sides of the equation, that is equity and inclusion on the one hand, and the disability and accessibility on the other, both of them emphasize the same points. That is the access to the programs, curricular activities, and the events that are both physically accessible and mentally accessible to all participants. That was, in a nutshell, the crux of the whole thing, of those slides. Oh, here you go. Sorry. So now what I wanted to show you was that given this similarity between the two sides, so there are these other real world events taking place, and one of them was the more recent court case in the University of California. And what they did, what the plaintiffs did, was to claim that UC's use of ACT and SAT discriminate against people with disabilities. Disabilities for sure, but race and class was one of the driving features. And one of the another argument was that these students who were either disabled or came from racial minorities, they didn't really have the resources comparable to their wealthy peers. So then obviously there were tremendous disparities in the ACT and SAT scores. The final ruling, or although the court case is still on, what the final decision, the interim decision that was handed out to the University of California, was that you can't really use ACT based on because it put students with disabilities at a disadvantage during this pandemic period, right? These students, they can't really take the test. They can't appear for the test. Test centers are closed. Or even if they did manage to reach the test centers, there are so many factors that can put them at risk. And therefore, taking these tests would really affect their health and obviously their overall scores. And we are all from higher education. We know University of California is a large and influential higher ed institution, and any such far-reaching decision from the court has tremendous consequences for the higher ed landscape in general. So the real world is moving on, and you know, in this pandemic, there are some losers and there are some winners. And in this case, I think students with disabilities, as well as racial minorities and people with fewer resources, are the winners in this particular case. So I just wanted to show you the racial, the breakdown of the data according to races within the US. Admittedly, this data is not from post-secondary institutions. This data is about high schools. So if you look at these numbers, American Indians, Alaska Native, they're 17%. Black students are 16. White students are 14%. Mixed race, 13%. Hispanic and Pacific Islanders, 12%. Asian, 7%. So if you take out these two numbers, Asian students, and as you all know, in higher ed, affirmative action has been controversial. And recently, Harvard and other institutions did face lawsuits from Asian students saying that the real affirmative action violates their rights to good education. So if you were take out 7% Asian and whites, 14%. So we are looking at 21%. So 100 minus 21, that takes us down to 79 or 75, whatever. It's a huge number of students that fall into the category of minorities. That's my point. And if these students really, even a small chunk of this number from high school reaches post-secondary, it does have a huge impact on the practices that we have in terms of delivering the lectures or education, how we design our curriculum, how faculty delivers their education, things of that nature. So the numbers tell us that minority students constitute a huge number of folks within higher education, and bringing students with disabilities will have high payoffs for all of us. So what I propose, and again, I want to say this is work in progress, but I want to propose that if we adopt UDL framework, I think that would take us to a point where we don't have to focus exclusively on disabilities or minorities. It would benefit both groups, right? So this framework addresses the primary barriers expert learners face. And so those of us who are in the field of providing accommodations or making websites and digital content accessible know this, that that one size fits all kind of an approach doesn't really help. And it is true for even the curriculum side, the faculty side. And if you approach higher education from a rigid, inflexible approach that, you know, I have developed this curriculum and this is the best curriculum and it would suit everybody, that doesn't really help many people. In fact, most faculty, and having been on the faculty side, I can tell you, we target average students, right? And so what we do is to design our syllabi to serve this average student. But you know, not 100% of our students are average students. There are some students who come to us with different sets of skills, different resources. Not everyone is on that average spectrum. So what I did, and here is my contribution, and I would be really eager to hear from all of you whether it makes sense or not, and whether I'm making any headways. So what I did, so this is a new tool called Otter AI. So this is an automated tool that we integrate with Zoom. And it generates automatically transcription of what we are talking. So, we don't really need any live captioner. So my approach was to reach out to the faculty and see how this tool could be utilized for engagement, the wider student engagement, as well as meeting our captioning / transcription requirements. So I found 2 takers within our faculty community to pilot it for general student engagement. So they're basically they basically integrated this tool within Zoom for their live lectures, and they opened it to all. They talked about it to their to the class, and they said, okay, you should use it along with my live conversation with you within the class as part of the class presentation. 3 faculty are using it for accommodation. So, they are using it for a particular student who has asked for captioning / transcription for those courses. But here's the thing, that all the 5 have opened the use of this tool to all students. They told all students, as well as these 3 faculty who are using it specifically for accommodation purposes. So the tool is open. All students enrolled in the courses can click on the box and they can see live transcription of the lectures. Here are my results. The couple of caveats here. As with any other artificial intelligence automated driven tool, obviously the accuracy rate of transcription is not 100%. The best accuracy you can expect is up to 90%. That's what they claim. But there are several factors involved in that. What's the accent of the faculty? If there is a foreign faculty, the tool may have difficulty in picking up the words, an accent, and depending on what kind of environment you're talking from, if there is a lot of background noise, then obviously transcription may not be all that accurate. So with all that caveat, here are my results. So in 3 courses, students reported themselves, and these are reports coming from when faculty have one-on-one conversation with students via Zoom, right? So they ask how's the course going, and there are different touch points of the faculty to get pulse on how the course is going, in addition to the formal course evaluation, right? We are all in this unique situation. So the faculty want to get a pulse from the student as to how the course is going. So 3 courses, students are reporting that they view live transcripts as the faculty is speaking, right? So in the live lectures. They are hearing the faculty as well as reading the transcript. And in one course, a lot of students reported that they are viewing it, but also they're viewing it for the live lecture, but also going back and accessing the transcript in the post-production phase, right? So if you want to go back and reread the transcript or what the faculty said, they are using it for that purpose. And one course had a lot of students reporting that they are using it to free themselves from several constraints. And one of those constraints is that you are listening to the faculty, you're watching the faculty deliver live lecture, but then at the same time you have to take notes. That's the traditional way of doing things, right? But here, given the fact that transcript is going to be available later in the post-production phase, these students are just not taking notes, and they go back and then they view these transcripts and then take notes from there, or just read notes from there. So many of these things affect both students with disability as well as racial minorities, right? So any form of multimodal learning benefits students in general. And what I'm hearing when the data that I'm getting from my faculty as of now is that this form of multimodal learning really benefiting students in terms of their engagement with the course content. That's one major point. And then the other major point is that students who require accommodations are definitely benefiting from it. But also those students who don't really require accommodation, they are benefiting as well. And our minority students who have to face several challenges ranging from balancing education and life, resource crunch, and some previous background of not developing adequate skills to take notes while the faculty is talking. All these barriers that negatively affect students with different skill sets and different backgrounds benefit from adopting this kind of UDL approach. This is one tool. I'm just using it here, but I think the overarching point I'm making here is that the UDL approach, whether that is used in conjunction with this particular tool or some other tool, really benefit students coming from different backgrounds. And I guess this is where the real equity and inclusion comes into play. So no matter what background you come from, our responsibility in higher ed is to ensure that there is fairness in terms of the opportunities available to our students, and that's my thinking. That was my thinking, and this is what I thought I would bring out in my research. So here I am on the last slide. And what I would suggest, my conclusions / recommendations. Larger point, as I said earlier, move discussion from accommodations. Accommodations are focusing on limitations. And move it to student engagement. No matter what background they come to us with, no matter what kinds of skill sets they have, let's treat them as students and think about the ways in which we can engage them. And that then allows us, I'm on my second point here, shifting conversation from deficit to augmentation and potential, right? So if you treat all your students in terms of making them engaged with the lecture content and in general the education environment, then what we are doing is trying to open different vistas of opportunities, right? And for them to take advantage of those opportunities, we need to think about their potential, what they can do, and not what they have done or what they cannot do. And this is the larger point, one of the larger points, that what institutions can do. So these days, for some reason, those who have been working on equity and inclusion specifically, they have been focused on this for a fairly long time. But in general, there appears to be a fad to talk about equity and inclusion all of a sudden at the institutional level. Right? Presidents and provosts may not have been all that focused until recently, but all of a sudden, this has become a priority. But the key consideration, or the key point, is that are they making all the resources, all the senior leadership, are they making all the resources available to put equity, inclusion, and access into practice? And for that, we need to really reprioritize what we have done in the past in order to get to those goals. We need to build this equity-minded culture with actions and by undertaking some really intentional actions. It's not going to happen overnight. And it is not also going to happen all by itself, right? We all have to be intentional. And that's what we need to do. And it can be done, if we all, ranging from faculty, students, and the administration, if we all adopt this framework of UDL, if we can all understand that the main customers, if you want to use that language, I use that with a lot of trepidation. But if you want to serve our student body, we have to reach a point where everyone benefits. And everyone benefits when we think about student engagement, regardless of their background. And that can happen, in my opinion, if we adopt this overarching framework of UDL. And I'm going to stop there. Thank you. Thank you for being so patient and standing by while I worked out all the quirks in my presentation. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions in the chat box? Okay, I'm not hearing that we have any. I do want to make sure that you all are aware of the lunch that starts at 12 o'clock. During that lunch break, we'll be playing selection of music, and we'll also at 12:30 be having a panel discussion. And we're going to put those links in the chat, so be sure to check the chat box for the links to that. Thank you for attending the Universal Design for Adult Learners Student Engagement and Disability Inclusion session.
Real quick, I just want to jump in. Dr. Kumar, will you send me these slides? People are asking if we can send these out and distribute them to the participants.
I will send them out to you.
Great, thank you. And I did have just one question for you. Do you
Please.
have plans to continue this research in the future?
Yes, I want to I want to refine it. I want to get some more data, and then probably get it out there in some outlet, some publication.
We did have one more question. I'm so sorry. We do have
one more question.
it. Just someone's asking about success with leadership, leading a top-down initiative for equity for students with disabilities. So how do you get that buy-in, from the leaders on your campus? Do you have
that's a tough one, and I often deal with that question in my own profession here, right? So one way in which we all can leverage our resources and get a buy-in from the leadership is to adopt a two-pronged approach. One, that we are here to serve our students. And numbers help always, right? Leadership always loves numbers. So, so when I say that we are all here to serve our student body, show that this is the number this is the number of students that really benefits from the equity programs and actions that we take. And B, so if we don't have these, and here are the numbers, then the real hard numbers that they really care about. If we don't do these actions, or we don't put these programs into place, then here is a certain number of students that will not attend our institution, and that will ultimately adversely affect our bottom line. Right? The money will not come in, and the money comes in different ways. Money comes from tuition, but also money comes from a lot of grants and aids from federal and state governments. And if you don't do these equity-based things, then you run the risk of losing all that money.
Okay, I believe we have a few other questions. I do apologize if I've overlooked anyone's questions. You mentioned UDL and equity being a fad right now among college administrations. Any suggestions for moving that to an authentic approach?
To an authentic approach. I'm trying to understand what authentic approach would be. Okay, here's how I understand the question. By authentic approach, I am understanding that, have the folks who are the beneficiaries of the UDL and equity and access be the spokespersons for that kind of policy or action at our institutions. So here's how I look at my position, and I think I am being authentic here. One that, in my practice, I am at once a producer of digital accessibility, because I'm specialist. I have master's degree in information technology. I can diagnose, I can fix, I can suggest fixes and things like that in terms of digital accessibility to both faculty and other folks, right? But at the same time, I'm also a consumer, right? I'm visually impaired and I use a screen reader. So when I go into my meetings with faculty to show how digital accessibility or lack thereof affects their syllabi or their course materials, I can show right there, I can pull up my screen reader and run it by their syllabus and show them how it affects if someone doesn't hear it correctly. So I'm being authentic, and in 80% of the cases or 90% of the cases, when faculty hear me or see me use a tool that benefits visually impaired students or other kinds of students in their classroom, it really drives home the message, and they get it. And that's when they said, okay, now tell me, how do I fix it? And that's the much larger question, much larger conversation than, how do I fix it? Whether they fix it or I fix it, or I get it and send it somewhere else to be fixed. But then that helps me open the door to hold that larger conversation.
And I did see one question earlier from Kimberly Rogers. I apologize if this one had not been asked already. It says, would it be accurate to say that UDL privileges student learning over student skill?
First of all, I'm not an expert on UDL. I'm using that framework. So here is a disclaimer. But I have a bit of a difficulty in separating the two, in the sense that in order to engage in effective learning, we have to use different skill sets. I agree. So the distinction between learning and the skill sets is hard to draw, because you will learn different skill sets. And I think the individual asking this question is hinting at the tool that I use, so basically the idea here in my mind is that the tool is taking notes for the student, and then obviously students are not learning the skills of taking notes. Okay, that's where the question is coming from. That may be true at certain level, but then also think about the fact that students learn differently, and these skill sets that we are thinking about, they do develop, but they may develop differently for different people and at different pace for different people. So again, if you think about an average student, a model student, so to speak, then maybe yes, we can say that there is a distinction between learning and developing certain skill sets. But if you make room for different rate of learning and different skill sets, then I think the distinction sort of blurs. I hope I made some sense, and I hope I addressed the question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar. If there aren't any more questions, it looks like we slowed down with the questions a little bit. We appreciate everyone participating and being a part of our session today. Remember that we do have lunch at 12 o'clock, but we also have our panel discussion at 12:30, and we would love you to join there. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Kumar.
Thank you, everybody. It was great presenting here.
Thank you.
Thanks.